In just a few hours, it will be daybreak off the coast of Indonesia, and that's when the full search operation for missing AirAsia Flight 8501 will resume. Let's bring in aviation expert Dan Hampton. He's a retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, and we're also joined by CNN aviation analyst and former Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Transportation, Mary Schiavo. As you point out, she now works for a law firm that represents victims and families after airline disasters. Colonel Hampton, let me start with you. You've flown more than 150 combat missions, so I'm sure you've had to react to a lot of volatile situations in the air. Shortly before air traffic control lost contact with AirAsia, the pilot asked for a deviation due to weather. Does that give you any indication of what could have happened next?
You know, it really doesn't, Martin, and I don't want to sound vague here, but there's the information is so scarce right now that I don't really want to leap to any conclusions. It's very normal in any kind of flying, military or civilian, especially commercial airline pilots, to deviate for weather. They don't want to spill people's coffee. It's not safe, that sort of thing. And you know, for the kind of flying I used to do, it was just good practice to avoid it when you could. So the fact that he deviated, you know, doesn't mean much to me. He was trying to go higher, which means the air is a little bit smoother, that sort of thing. At this point, and as Les pointed out earlier, I don't want to just focus entirely on the weather. It seems that that's probably a contributing factor, but there's a lot of other things that could have happened here.
And I don't know, I didn't get to read in, but have you ever had an opportunity to work search and rescue and efforts to try and locate aircraft that have been down?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you recall from the, and I don't want to draw a parallel to the Malaysian incident, you know, 10 months ago, but that sort of effort is something that they're going to have to do here, although it should be a little bit easier because there was a good IFF hit on this aircraft. They were in constant radar contact, and they pretty much know where this airplane went down, unlike the one 10 months before. So the search and rescue effort should be a little bit simpler, weather permitting.
And just looking down, though, on the water from an aircraft is not necessarily a perfect view of everything, is it?
No, it's definitely not. It's a lot harder than people think. Unfortunately, it's not like a bathtub. But commercial airliners all have emergency locator transmitters on them, that sort of thing. And the fact that nobody's been talking about this yet with this airplane means to me either they're not releasing that information or something else possibly could have happened. Also, the fact that the pilots didn't make a distress call, at least one that we know about at this time, is also a little bit telling in my mind, because they were either too busy doing what they were doing, dealing with a problem to make a call, which is normal, or this is something else, and time will tell, unfortunately.
Mary, let me ask you this. Assuming that they will find some debris or find some portion of this aircraft, what could that tell them?
Well, any piece of debris, even the smallest piece from the plane, will allow them to do the drift patterns and work back to find where the rest of the plane might be and where to put submersibles in to find the black boxes. So even the small, you know, one seat cushion could be a huge break in finding this aircraft. And unless it'd be very rare for it not to break up if it hit the water, it would be very rare for it not to break up, particularly from this altitude, because it was at cruising altitude. And I've worked a couple cases where they have fallen from that altitude, and it's, yeah, you know, it's a big, the impact is breaks up the plane.
You heard Dan make reference to how difficult it can be to search from the air when trying to find debris. Is that also a problem that you're aware of? I mean, that it's not always easy, even though you're flying over it, to see things so clearly.
Right, on Air France 447, they had the coordinates. I mean, the plane, that particular aircraft, an Airbus, but an Airbus 340, was sending the messages with the automatic system status update messaging system. And even knowing exactly where it occurred, it took a while for them to find the wreckage. They have to, particularly in stormy weather, and they have to apply the drift patterns. And some agencies and some forces are better at using the drift pattern data and calculating back where the drifted pieces would have impacted the water than others. So, you know, it's a lot of work to actually find it, but as everyone in the world learned from Malaysia 370, the time is ticking away, and fortunately, it doesn't appear that they're losing the 4 days they lost in Malaysia 370 when the Malaysian military, neglected to tell them they were looking in the wrong place. So hopefully there will be no misconnects there, and they will understand that you can't say the coordinates of a civilian aircraft are a national security secret when lives are at stake.
Dan, real quick, Dan, before I let you go, have you ever been caught up in weather where you thought, holy cow, I'm not sure I'm going to make it through this?
Oh, many times. I went from 35,000 feet to 800 feet one day during the last Gulf War. It's not good. And you're talking about a fighter jet with an afterburner, which unfortunately an airliner doesn't have. So yeah, it can be a problem. But again, we don't know that that's what happened. So I don't want to speculate too much.
No, but it's a staggering thought just to hear what you went through. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Colonel Dan Hampton and Mary Schiavo, always a pleasure to have you as well.